It was 5 o'clock in the morning and I had not slept all night. I was nervous and anxious. It was the big day, time for the test I dreaded. It was a memorable day during my years at the university. I had studied all night and faithfully read all my notes, books, and reviews. It was my final biology test. The focus of this class was human anatomy. At the end of the test, I felt confident that I had done well. 3 days later, I was proven right when my professor called me in to congratulate me for receiving the top grade in the class. I was so proud of myself and felt I had achieved something outstanding. As I stood there looking at the papers he handed to me, I suddenly realized something I had never thought of. Throughout this course of study, I had become well educated in the knowledge of the human body, the names, purposes, and functions of all of its intricate parts and organs. The thought that struck me was that I knew what the human body was, but did not know why the human was. In other words, I knew the product, but did not know its purpose. This youthful discovery still motivates me today. There are over 6 billion people on planet Earth, and only a few of them know why they exist. What a tragedy. Who is a man? Why was man created? Why was he put on this planet? What is he to do? Where did he come from? What can he do? Where is he going? These questions strike at the heart of all human pursuit. All that men want to know are the answers to these questions. Are humans simply a link in some evolutionary chain as proclaimed by the theologians of evolution? Are we simply sophisticated primates participating in the drama of the survival of the fittest? Are we simply a freak accident of some cosmic Big Bang mishap from which we emerged from the slime of some cosmic soup as the magnificent, reasoning, self-conscious being to which we have evolved today? I find it impossible to believe that anyone could believe such a theory. This unreasonable, unsubstantiated, unproven theoretical proposition has no foundation in truth and desecrates the truth of man's origin. It dilutes and diminishes his glorious purpose. Man is the crowning act of an intentional creator. He exists as God's co-regent in a world created for him. In examining mankind, we will discover the beauty and the mystery of God's purpose for the whole of creation. It seems that the end of all things will be discovered in the beginning of all things. Therefore, we will begin our study by considering God's original plan for his creation. Quite obviously, if we seek to understand the creation, we must first understand the Creator, because the original purpose of any product is only in the mind of the creator of that product. Therefore, to discover the purpose and reason for mankind's creation and existence, we must attempt to tap into the mind of his creator. After all, no one knows the product like the manufacturer. First, it is essential to understand that before anything was, God is. The word God denotes self-existing one or self-sufficient one, and describes a being that needed nothing or no one to exist. Therefore, God is not a name, but rather a description of a character. Because of who and what he is, he alone qualifies for the title of God. This totally independent God existed before all things and began his creative process by first producing the entire invisible world, which we also have come to know as the supera or above natural world. This act of creation initiated the concept of ruler and rulership, as the creator became the governor over a created realm. Another word for ruler is king. God called this invisible realm or domain heaven, and thus he became the king over the domain heaven. This was the beginning and creation of the first kingdom called the invisible kingdom of God. This was also the introduction of the concept of kingdom. This concept of kingdom is critical, essential, necessary, required, and imperative in order to understand, appreciate, and comprehend the purpose, intent, goal, and objectives of God and mankind's relationship to him and the creation. It is not unreasonable to ask why God, the King of Heaven, would want to create sons in his image and a visible universe. Was he not satisfied and pleased with an invisible realm of angels and powers to rule? I believe the answer to these questions lies in understanding the very nature of God himself. There is much about this great, awesome, self-sustaining one that we do not, cannot, and may never know. But he has revealed enough of himself to mankind to allow us to glimpse some of the magnificence of his nature and character. One such characteristic is that God is love, 1 John 4, 8, 16. Please note that he does not say that he has love, but that he is love. This is an important distinction when it comes to understanding his motivation, because if God is love, then his actions would naturally or supernaturally be the manifestation of the nature of love. One of the obvious qualities of love is that love has to give and share itself. If this be so, then the very nature of God would be to desire to share his rulership and government. In essence, love is fulfilled when it gives and shares itself. It is this inherent nature of love that motivated the King of Heaven to create spirit children, called mankind, to share his kingdom rulership. In other words, man was created for the purpose of rulership and leadership. This is why in the message of Jesus, when he described the age of the kingdom of God and its provision for man, his indication was that this kingdom belonged to man before earth was created. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world." Matthew 25:34. It was God's idea to share his invisible kingdom with his offspring, which he called mankind, and give to them his nature and characteristics. There is another concept that is crucial to understanding the original purpose and plan of God for man and creation, and that is the thought that has come to be known to man as colonization. Colonization is a process whereby a government or ruler determines to extend his kingdom, rulership, or influence to additional territory with the purpose of impacting that territory with his will and desires. The principle of colonization is understood in the process of transforming an extended territory to be just like the center of government from which it extended. That is, to manifest the nature and will of the ruler in the lifestyle, actions, activities, and culture of the territory. Therefore, the foundation for appreciating God's creative motivation is to understand that his intent was to share his governing authority with his spirit children by extending his invisible heavenly kingdom to a visible earthly realm for the purpose of colonizing that domain to be like heaven. Genesis 1 says, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth," the physical universe. God ruled as king over a spacious and spectacular spiritual realm that he had already created. It was a world filled with angels who were there to serve him and worship him. The book of Genesis opens with God's activity in the creation of the physical world that would be the environment for the manifestation of his eternal purpose. His intention was to establish his kingdom in that physical world without having to come visibly into that world himself. The purposes of the invisible God would be served by a visible creation that was the result of his creative genius. His plan would be carried out by creating from his own spirit, being a family of offspring who would be just like him, created in his exact image. As his representatives, they would release, establish, and implement his invisible kingdom in the visible natural world. This is his original purpose for creating man. It was not an accident. It was not a fluke. It came about through the planning and preparation of the great God of heaven who, through his love and wisdom, constructed this awesome plan. Man was right there in the center of the plan. From the very beginning, God's plan for mankind centered on the fact that God desired to have a personal relationship with man and vice versa. It was never God's plan to establish a religion. As stated earlier, religion is a result of man's response to a deep spiritual vacuum in the recesses of his soul for something he cannot describe or identify. The word religion denotes belief systems, creeds, and adherence to faith or convictions. These systems are manifested in the development of an array of traditions, rituals, and cultural practices that extend from the simple to the very complicated. Every civilization throughout history cultivated forms of religion that sustained their viability as social entities and served as an outlet to address the mystical questions of life and death. For many, religion has been and continues to be a tireless preoccupation, distracting them from the unresolved fears of the human heart. The need for religion in some form is a universal phenomenon and is inherent in the human spirit. All humankind, left to themselves, will inevitably develop some form of religious practice. In many incidences, this can take the shape of systems of philosophies, theories, ideologies, a set of principles or documented convictions. Whatever the form takes, the purpose is the same, the attempt to satisfy the indescribable spiritual craving in the spirit of all mankind. It is interesting to note that in the ancient writings of the Hebrew prophet and patriarch Moses, who chronicles the creation narrative of the physical universe and mankind, we do not find the establishment of a formal religious system or code of traditions for man to follow or practice. The most powerful motivation in the heart of man is the pursuit of power. Why is the desire to control our environment and circumstances so overpowering to humanity? The answer is found in the very nature and heart of the human spirit. Man was created to exercise power and designed to manage it. The motivating purpose for the creation of the human species was to dominate the earth and its resources. the result of the Creator's desires to extend his rulership from the supernatural realm to the physical realm. His plan and program was to do this through a family of spirit children he would call his sons. The record of this creative act is found in Genesis 1:26. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule, have dominion over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, over the livestock, over all the earth, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them, general. 1:26-27. This statement is the first declaration of God's intent for you and me, and encompasses the total purpose, assignment, potential, passion, and design of man as an entity. This statement is the key to man's natural desires, sense of purpose, and fulfillment in life. There are a number of critical principles embedded in this first mission statement of God concerning man's creation that must be carefully examined. Man was both created and made. Both of these words are important and are distinctively different in the original Hebrew language. The word created is from the Hebrew word bara, which means to create from nothing. And the word make is from the Hebrew word asa, which means to form from something that is already created. Therefore, man is the integration of parts that were created from nothing and things that were already made. This mystery describes the production of man's spirit being directly from the Spirit of God, thus making man a composite of the nature, attributes, and characteristics of his source, which is God the Creator himself. This truth is critical when discussing the spirit of dominion in mankind. It is also noteworthy at this point to understand that the word for source in the original Hebrew is the word Abba, which we translate as Father. This is why God is considered the Father of all mankind. He sourced us all, and thus we possess his nature and likeness. Man was made in God's image. The word image here is not referring to physical likeness, but is translated from the Hebrew words selem and demut, both meaning essential nature, copy, characteristics, and essence. This denotes that man as a spirit being is an expression of God's moral and spiritual nature, and his attributes make him godlike and place him above and beyond all earthly creation. In essence, man was created by God in the God class and was given the responsibility to exercise that quality as God's agent on earth. God created man. This word man is important because it does not refer to gender as in male, but was the name given by the Creator for the species of spirits that came out of his spirit. In essence, man is plural, intense, and was the name given to the spirit species. It is also essential to note that spirits have no gender, and thus man is neither male nor female, but pure spirit. The Creator said, "Let them have dominion over the earth." This statement is most critical and contains the secret to the transfer of power and authority from God to man, from heaven to earth, and from the unseen to the seen world. This is the foundation of divine delegation of responsibility for management and rulership over the earth to man. This is significant because the nature of God's holiness and integrity does not allow him to violate his own words. Thus, when God spoke these words, he established the conditions of his relationship to earth through mankind. He did not say, "Let us have dominion over the earth," as that would have given him legitimate access to earth without reference to mankind. But by these words, he established mankind as the only legal authority on earth, with the power of attorney to act on his behalf. Perhaps this is why God has never done anything on earth without the cooperation of a human entity, and was ultimately the reason for the necessity of his entrance into the human race as a man. Consequently, Jesus, the man, made Christ, the God, legal on earth. This is the power mankind has on planet Earth. Let them have dominion. This is the most fundamental principle for understanding the nature and the desires of mankind. Here the Creator expresses clearly, emphatically, why he created man. This statement leaves no doubt as to what motivated his creating man and his expectation man's behavior. It also establishes man's assignment and the standard of success for his existence. This word dominion lays the foundation for the kingdom concept as it relates to God's purpose and plan for the human species. Over the fish of the sea, birds of the air, the livestock, earth, and all that creep upon the ground. This statement is crucial as it defines the nature and boundaries of the rulership of mankind. It is essential to note that the human entity is not included in the context of man's domination. The implication is that God, the Creator, never intended man to rule over or dominate his own kind, but rather to rule the creation and resources of earth. In the art of human communication, it is understood that successful communication is only possible when the terms and the concepts used between the subject and object of that communication are the same. Therefore, before we proceed any further in this most important discussion and exploration of the kingdom concept, it is necessary for us to have a fundamental understanding of the root of this concept of dominion as it pertains to the kingdom concept. The Creator's first declaration of man's purpose for creation is hidden in this word dominion. And for man to understand himself and his purpose, it is imperative that this word be thoroughly understood. The words dominion or rule are synonymous and derive their meanings from the same root words. The Hebrew words from which the concept of kingdom dominion comes are rendered mashal, mamlaka, malkut, and the Greek derivative is the word basileia. The definition of these words include to rule, sovereignty, to reign, kingdom, to master, to be king, royal rule, and kingly. The term mamlaka also signifies the area and the people that constitute a kingdom. It is important to note that the concept of king was also considered the embodiment of kingdom. The king was viewed as the symbol of the kingdom proper and personified the glory of the kingdom. Therefore, the definition of dominion can be crafted in the following way. To be given dominion means to be established as a sovereign, kingly ruler, master, governor, responsible for reigning over a designated territory, with the inherent authority to represent and embody as a symbol the territory, resources, and all that constitutes that kingdom. This definition should be memorized, understood, and embraced by the spirit of every man if we are to understand the original purpose and will of God, our Creator, for our existence. With that understanding, we can appreciate the gravity of the first proclamation of God, the Creator, concerning mankind. Man was created with a dominion mandate over earth, giving him responsibility for representing the kingdom government of God on earth. Mankind is heaven's earthly agency for kingdom rulership influence. Mankind